Hi, it's Kane Hodder. You're listening to Death Curse Society. Keep listening. Or don't fucking listen. I don't care.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Death Curse Society, a little bonus edition for you on a Wednesday evening, which is kind of weird for us. I know. It's not Monday. We're not maniacs tonight.
I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's Red Crank and Zigzag. What's up, Ziggy?
Again, I don't know. It's been crazy, man. We've been delivering Easter plants and crashing into fucking trees and tow trucks. It's been fucking an epic event just getting here for this. But I'm glad
you've had a day.
I'm ready to fucking laugh a little bit, hopefully. You know what I mean?
You've had a day, it sounds like.
It's been a fucking horrible day, but it's all right. This is the best part right now.
That's right.
So you're enjoying the best part of the day now with me.
Well, that's good. That's good. Let's see. We got Duarte and Tanya in here right now. So I'm sure there's a couple other people in here, but let's first off thank our members, our final girls and guys, Chris, Lorena, Christy, Luke, Charles, Tanya, and Tyrone, and our crazy Ralph Raymond, and our camp counselors, Michigan Dave. Dave. I gotta specify now. S. Michael, Stacy Lynn, Orlando, Kiara, Canadian Dave, and JJ. Thank you guys for being part of the society. Check out deathcursesociety.com. You can find out more about how to become a member. But we've already got him waiting in the room, so with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in our special guest today. He is a stand-up comedian that has toured, I believe, 46 states in the country, hoping to get to those last 4 sometime in the next couple of years. And he's also an author and has released his latest book, Until the Blood Begins to Flow. It is author-comedian Steve Sabo, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going, Steve?
It is going well, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for accommodating me, getting me here on a Wednesday, and I'm glad. I'm glad to be here, man. This is so great. Your intro is fantastic. I love the Kane Hodder thing. This is great.
We just told him to be himself.
Yeah. Be yourself, and that's what we got. You know, listen or don't listen. I don't fucking care. You know, so.
Brilliant.
It's great.
Yeah. First off, Steve, I wanted to ask you, from stand-up comedy to book author. I mean, those are 2 completely different writing worlds, I would assume. What was the transition like for you?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So what a lot of people don't know about me is that when I went to college, I initially went to college for journalism and creative writing. And when I was a kid, when I was in high school and even junior high, I was writing horror stories my entire life. So like I grew up with John Skipp and Craig Spector and David J. Shaw and the splatterpunk people, the people that I loved as authors. And I used to write little stories that mimicked them, back in the day, little stories and stuff like that. In fact, this book was originally written in high school. The original version of this book I wrote my senior year in high school. And it just came about that when I was looking for a new story to write, this popped back into my head. And I said, I wondered what it would be like if I just re-explored this idea and obviously rewrote it from scratch, but with a modern angle on it, because since I haven't been in high school in a very long time. But so I started off as a writer, as a fiction writer, and then obviously I pivoted into comedy when I turned 18 and was pretty much doing that. But when COVID hit and we had nothing but time. Like I couldn't travel like I was doing. I said, I finally have time to sit down and write that novel. I think like everybody says that, right? Everybody says, if I only had time, I could write my novel. Well, I try to turn lemons into lemonade when I can, and COVID was my lemons, I guess. So I started writing, and here I am. Now this is my 5th book, and
Oh wow.
yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? Like once I got the first one down, and that's the thing. And I tell people this: if they've ever wanted to write a book, just write it. You'd be surprised at what you can accomplish. And once I got the first one done, all these ideas started flowing, and I just wanted to keep writing and keep writing and keep writing. And I did. And I just, that's one of those things I think is funny. People tell me all the time, "Oh, I don't have time to do this. Well, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to do." Well, nobody has time. Nobody has time for anything. You have to make that time. But once you make that time, it becomes a habit, and it becomes something that you look forward to doing. And that's exactly what this was.
Nice. The yes, that is one of the things I have always struggled with is, I have the time to write, but it's just like my writing, when I do get to sit down and do some creative writing, it comes in these weird random bursts. Like for 3 weeks, I'll write 4 hours a day, and do nothing else. But then after that 3 weeks, I'm just like, and then I don't look at anything for another 6 months or so. How do you carve out time every day to write?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's very true. Like when it came down to my comedy writing, I used to try to sit down for an hour a day and just write jokes and stuff like that. That doesn't work for me comedy wise. Comedy wise, I have to write jokes when they come to me. So it's usually when I'm driving and I'm staring off into space, my mind just wanders, and that creates my my joke writing process. Anything I'm not writing from the stage, I write a lot of stuff from the stage and do it that way. But for this, I didn't want to push myself. I didn't want to, be too crazy with it. So I said, I'm just going to sit down for an hour a day. And I did every single day for an hour. For my first book, it was from 11 a.m. till noon every single day. We weren't going anywhere. It was COVID. You're all in the same home. So finding that time was easy. So once I got accustomed to doing that, that's all it was. So it's an hour a day. And if I have time, I'll go and do more. If I want to do more, if I want to keep going, I do. But I commit myself to an hour a day. And even if that meant an hour less of sleep or an hour less of anything else, I'll do it in an hour a day. Now that I'm traveling again, back on the road doing comedy, on the days that I'm doing comedy, I don't write at all. But it's just too hard to get my, to drive 10 hours or 12 hours and set up the computer and then make that happen and get on the road and get back into writing mode. But when I'm home, every single day that I'm home, I'm going to write for an hour a day, every single day. And I know it's stupid, but it's something that you have to do. You just have to make that time. And for me, and I can't speak for everybody, I don't know what other people's processes are, but to me, the more disciplined I am, the better. So I just pick an hour and I stick to that hour, and no matter what. And I think that works for people going to the gym too and things like that. Like if you're going to go to gym at 5 a.m., you have to go to gym at 5 a.m. every day. You can't just say, "Oh, I'll go after work," or "I'll do it after this," or "I'll do it after this." You have to pick a time and make yourself go. And writing is exactly the same way.
So all this here, your method here, all through COVID, you kicked out 5 books since COVID started?
An insane amount, doesn't it? But it's been 3 years, which is, it's just been over 3 years, which is a lot longer than you think, And so basically, how it kind of worked was I wrote the first draft of my first book, and then that took me about 3 months, and then I set it aside, and then I started writing my second book, and I set that aside. Then I went back to the first book, did another draft of that one. Then I went back to the second book, and then by the time I got done with the first book, I was already starting the third book. So it was like this continuous process of having one book in an editing stage and one book in a first draft stage throughout the whole thing. So like this last book, honestly, I was working on it because my last 2 books, I started at the exact same time and then finished the other one sooner than this one. I just felt like this one needed a little bit more, more seasoning, a little more work. And it's the biggest book I've written. Like my last book, I think was 260 or 270 pages. And this one is over 400. Yeah. So it was more of a story. It was a longer book. And honestly, I cut out about 100 pages of that, to make it what it was. I just didn't feel like nobody wants to read 500 pages from me. I don't want to read 500 pages from Stephen King, and I love Stephen King. It's just too much, So I like the idea of having books that the books I wanted to read, like a book that you can pick up when you're waiting for an airplane and you can finish it on, by the time you get, to your hotel or whatever like that, where you're just so stuck in that mode where the next chapter brings you to the next chapter and you got to get to the next one. You got to know what's going on next. I wanted the page turner type books. That's what I wanted to make. Cause that's what I like to read. Like other books, and I hate saying it like this, but there's books that are great books, that are amazing books that I just find painful to read, like they're insightful and they're great, but you get 4 or 5 pages and your head hurts and you're like, I don't want to, I just don't want to read anymore. And then there's other books where you're 100 pages deep and you didn't even realize that you got that far. You just, got drawn into the story. And that's what I try to do. That's my goal. My goal has always been to write books that I would want to read. So that's people ask me, like, who's your target audience? I mean, I hate to say people like me because I don't know how many people are like me out there. Oof. But, that type of book, a person that's, that likes a bunch of different types of things from horror to comedy to everything, to action adventure. Like if you went to the movies, would you go see a Marvel movie? Would you see the new John Wick movie? Would you see a romantic comedy? I'm not seeing the romantic comedy. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that deep, 12 Years a Slave movie or whatever like that. I'd rather see, Megan or the next, Saw, establishment or a Marvel movie, something like that. So that's to me, and I think there's a lot of people out there like that.
So don't expect a sequel to like When Steve Met Sally kind of book coming anytime soon.
I doubt I will ever write a romance type book, although I hear there's a lot of money in it, but it's not the way I think. It's not for me. I've never written for money anyway. I don't know if that's to me, it seems counterproductive to why I do it. Same thing with joke writing, stuff like that. I don't write jokes to appeal to the masses. I write jokes to appeal to me, and hopefully it will, translate to the masses as a result. That's my goal,
I'm still fascinated by the process here, and you're writing these at the same time, and a lot of these titles are vastly different storylines. I mean, you got thrillers and drama, kind of thriller, then the Confessions of a Killer Comedian. We might have to talk. I was wondering, you said creative writing back early on, and that makes me a little more at ease. The fact that you're, because I'm like, well, I'm getting a little bit on the nose here with some of these stories,
Yeah. And they are vastly different. In fact, like the last one, My Dark Itch, the Confessions of a Killer Comedian, that was the first book that I've really written, the first fiction book from the first person perspective. And that was incredibly fun to write. It was one of those books that, like, I would put myself into that situation. And since it's a book about a stand-up comedian who becomes a serial killer, I mean, I'm already halfway there, So it was really fun to write. And that's why that one came a little bit easier than this one was, because I knew the main character, and the main character, since it was from a first person viewpoint, was, I didn't have to deal with ancillary characters and their thoughts and their feelings and their motivations. I only had to deal with that one character's main motivation. And that's why that one was more fun and easy to write. But no, you're right. They're vastly different, and it's hard. It's only hard to get into that mindset because, for the most part, I'm working on a first draft, and then I'm working on editing, a second draft of the other, which is two completely different processes. Mm-hmm. But this last one, when I was writing 2 different books at the same time, that was a lot harder. That was a little bit more frustrating. That's why at one point I had to put When the Blood Begins to Flow aside to finish the other one, because it was just getting too muddy in my head, and I couldn't keep track of everything.
Right. I was going to ask if, did you get on at any point, did one of the storylines just start dominating where you had to, like, man, I got to ride this out until we get to a nice stopping point, you know?
That's exactly right. That's exactly what would happen. And when I was doing that, it was harder in the sense that like I try to write like one chapter of one and one chapter of the other, and then that became just because, you know, as a writer, it takes a minute to get into your story, to get into where you were in your head, in your headspace, to make that happen. And it was getting too difficult to go bounce from one to the other. So then I would end up, all right, I'll do 2 chapters of this one and then 2 chapters of this one, or 3 chapters of this one and then 3 chapters of this one. And then it kind of just got to a point where it's like, I gotta put this one aside and I gotta just focus on this one for a while. It was, but I don't recommend it. I recommend sticking to one if you can. You know, you can do the editing thing was, you know, doing a second draft. I know I'm going to talk in circles here, but when you write a first draft, for me anyway, when you write a first draft, I love it until I reread it. You know, the moment I reread it, then I hate it. Yep. And then it's like, so then the second draft becomes less about joy and more about pain, you know, but it's getting it out. But by the time I get done with the second draft, I love it again. And then all of a sudden it's more about fixing the parts that are a little weaker and strengthening it, and then adding this and adding that. And it's the whole book writing thing is a process, but I love writing first drafts. I find second drafts incredibly painful, but it's great after that. So
nice.
I can relate with the music. Go ahead, Craig.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, by the way, gang, make sure to, if you have questions for Steve, throw them in the comments. We'll make sure to get to those. Duarte says, "What's up, brothers? Can't wait for this interview."
Right.
And then Charles Sherrod Jr. says, "Always in support of another author." He's the writer of a book called The Ghost, which is also available on Amazon. And speaking of, I'm going to throw the link right now in for Steve's book, Until the Blood Begins to Flow, in the comments. Go and check this out after the interview, though, and buy his damn book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, are you now? Since you're traveling on the road a lot, are you home right now by chance, or where are you?
I'm home today. I've got a busy week this week. I have a show, 1 show Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, and then I have another show on Easter Sunday. So 5 of these shows are in Ohio, which is where I live, and then my Sunday show is in Illinois. So it's a busy week.
Okay. Are you staying mostly regional now with the comedy touring, or are you back to full nationwides now?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that, because I tell myself all the time that I'm going to try to stay as close to home as possible. And then anybody if you're a comedian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You try that and you do that, and then you realize that there's not enough work. You can't line up the work the way you want to line up the work. Like there are 4 major clubs, depending how you look at it, in the state of Ohio. And you can only do those, if you're lucky, once a year, or realistically, maybe once every 2 or 3 years. So that's 1 week or 2 weeks, let's say, out of 52, and you've got 50 other weeks to fill. So you can fill it with some one-nighters, you can fill it up with some corporate work and stuff like that, but you're going to have to stretch out. You're going to have to keep going. And like when it's difficult for me, because when winter comes around, which is when I want to be around home, that's when all the work offers come out in South Dakota and North Dakota and Minnesota, where it's freezing cold. And then summer comes around, and that's when I can, I get more stuff locally, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because I don't mind traveling in the summer. But so like I find myself, because of when I was still working during COVID, which I thought was interesting, I just had to travel a lot to get to where I needed to go. But flights were cheap. I could fly for like $40 or $50. I flew like to Denver for I think $40 round trip, and I flew to Florida for $30 and other places. So travel was cheaper. And now, the way everything is more expensive, like everything, like gas is more expensive. Tolls went up. Hotels, I used to be able to get trade out deals with hotels. I can't get any trade out deals with hotels anymore. So I find myself in more of a situation where it's harder to do some of the gigs that were easier to do before. But that being said, I try to stick within 10 hours of driving time if I can. It's not always possible, but I've always been a a road warrior in that sense, and I love doing that. I think did we meet in Oklahoma? I don't know where.
That's
somewhere
right.
like that. I mean, that's pretty far cry from me, you know. But I go everywhere. You know, I have family in Florida. I have family in Texas. I'll go where the money is.
Yeah, we met when
you go in Detroit. When you get up to Detroit.
Oh,
go ahead. I got him. There you go.
Okay. When are you coming to Detroit?
When am I coming to Detroit? That's a good question. I was
Please don't say you were just here like 2 weeks ago.
No, I about a month or so ago I was in I think Wyandotte, something like that, which is basically southern Detroit. Yeah, I don't have there's a couple clubs that are up there that I frequent. Frequent isn't the right word, but I'll play Mark Rivley Comedy Castle, I'll play One Night Stands, I'll play Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, but I have none of those on the books currently at the moment. So I'm trying to think to myself, I've got I got Michigan shows, but like I just did a show in I think Beaverton not that long ago, which is about a couple hours away. I'm doing Bad Axe. I'm doing you know, I'm in Michigan a lot. I probably play Michigan more than I play any other state, believe it or not. But specifically Detroit, I don't think I have anything on my schedule right now.
I'll keep an eye out.
We met, Steve, when me and Rob Neville had Funny's Comedy Club in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and that's where we had you booked for a couple of shows.
Yes, I do remember that. Funny's, yeah. Yep, I remember that.
It's been about 10 years. But,
it's weird because you meet somebody on the road, and then it might be 10 years before you see him again, and then you might work with him 6 times. It's crazy how that works. Right. But how is Rob? I haven't seen him in same length of time, I guess.
Honestly, once we split the club up and he went his way and I went my way, we haven't really kept in touch, to be honest with you. Maybe he's watching this right now. Rob, hope you're doing well, man.
Me too. I hope he's doing well as well.
Yeah. I think he's down in Oklahoma City, and I think he does a few shows every now and then, but I really don't know what he's doing now. So, well, tell us a little bit about this book. I'll be honest, I meant to get further in. I got about 50 pages in. I did find, I got to know your main character, Winston, I believe, is your main character at least, and saw the inciting incident, or one of the first incidents that happens with Miss Jackson in his office. But what can you tell us about Until the Blood Begins to Flow? Okay,
sure. So, I wondered how far you would get, because once you hit page 200, there's a big shift in the story. Okay. And so basically, the first half of the book is I guess the first half of the book, you'd say it's about a guy that's really getting beaten down by life. It's he's getting beaten down by life, by everything that's happening to him. Things are just not going his way. He can't catch a break, and this guy is getting ready to snap, and things are just not going good. And then once we hit, I'm trying to see what I can say without spoiling anything. Once you get to that catalyst point, it becomes a story of survival, where things have all gone to hell, and then it's the people that are trying to make it through to the end. There's a point or several points in this book that I try to do with all my books. I try to have some things in there that you don't see coming. I don't want it to be predictable at all. So I don't want to set any spoilers in there, but it's essentially about a high school principal who's had enough. He has an ability, or at least he thinks he does, to bring his nightmares to life. And then all of that comes to a head, and things, then the blood really starts to flow, I guess, at that point. But it was incredibly fun to write. It's one of those books where, in my opinion, when you watch a horror film and you see where you're at is that setup point, the tension building, where what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next, and then when the creature reveals itself per se, that's when things go crazy. And that's my favorite part of a book. You know, that part in Carrie after they dump the cow's blood on her head, the part where, trying to think of a good one, but in Chainsaw, you know what I mean? You get the whole point where they get to the house, and then all of a sudden, once Leatherface is revealed, that's when shit gets really crazy.
Right,
and those are my favorite moments of a book and of a movie, and there's plenty of that. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore, but yeah, it's.
I'm a gore man.
Once you get there, you're gonna, I wanted there to be moments where people say, "Oh my God," right? "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened." And I want it to be a point where one of the things I've always hated, let's say this, one of the things I've always hated about a lot of horror movies is you can almost always tell who's going to live and who's going to die, right? And just at the very intro of it, you're like, well, that person's going to be the final girl. This person's going to, be the first one to die. And I didn't want to do that in this book. So I specifically, I wouldn't say I flipped a coin to decide who was going to die, but, I may as well have at this point, because some are going to live and some are going to die, and you're not going to know which ones they are.
Now, did you?
I think you just told me that Winston's going to die at the end of this book. God damn it!
I certainly did not say that.
Did you find any inspiration? I keep clicking it too when I'm going to talk. So
Okay.
Like from real teachers or principals from your past as you were coming up. They're like, hey, son of a bitch, I'll fix you. So I just hang on. Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that. So since I wrote this story originally when I was in high school,
mm-hmm.
and that was completely inspired by teachers and principals and my high school experience, but it also happens that my brother is a vice principal at a college at a high school in Florida. And so I used him for a lot of resources, and I kind of put him as a character in the book as well, because and if I'm not sure if he's in there yet, but from where you're at.
I remember he was mentioned in the acknowledgement at the beginning.
Yeah. A lot of the insight and a lot of the knowledge that I needed to know about how things work in high schools now, because it's important to me to be as accurate as possible. And so he very much inspired me from his stories and his life and what he's got going on there. And then the other half of that was inspiration from when I was back in high school. So, the whole reason this entire story exists is because of that story I wrote back then, which I really liked the idea of. And I can't tell you without spoiling the story, and you haven't gotten there yet. I can't tell you the main inspiration, I guess, for this book.
That's fair.
We'll wait. I'll be reading more later tonight and everything. I had meant to read some the last couple of nights, and then I've been busy editing some other stuff that we're getting ready for our channel and everything, and I would just fall asleep with a computer on my lap and be like, I guess I got to go to bed. So no reading.
No, I get it. It's tough. I always bring a book with me into the bathroom instead of a cell phone, so that I force myself to at least read a couple pages. Mm-hmm. It's one of those weird tricks you have to teach yourself, because I try to read before I go to bed, and I always end up not going to bed until I needed to go to bed. So reading is one of those things that too many people have given up on as you get older in life, which kind of sucks. But it's one of the greatest joys I have in life. It's so much better than watching TV and watching a movie, but it's a commitment. A book's going to take you weeks and sometimes months to finish.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something about you originally wrote this book in high school. When you went back to this and you found the original manuscript, and you were rereading it, trying to think of rewriting it or whatever, how much did you hate your high school self going back and looking at this, several years later? I mean, did it still sound good to you, or did you know, good Lord, I was young when I wrote this and this is ridiculous?
Well, what's funny is I look back at my writing back then, and I was actually a really good writer, but I wasn't very deep or insightful, right? So my writing style was very straightforward, very much this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, and it was well written. I was but I didn't have any depth to the characters, any reason behind what things just happened. There wasn't a reason behind why they happened. So that was what I found to be the most interesting part to me, was going, this is a really good idea. Like I love the idea of this, but let's make these characters a little bit more human. Let's give them some actual reason for being. And I thought that was the challenge, and what made it a lot more fun. I mean, obviously, there's none of the words in this are the same as the words that were there in the original story. Your growth and change in 30 some years, significant, but it was still, I had good ideas back in the day.
Yeah, I'm waiting for one of the characters to say "bitchin' dude" at some point in the book, but that's just me.
Go ahead. It's funny you say that, because one of the things that I challenge myself with is that I want to write a book that is a snapshot of the day that we're in, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also tough when that everything is temporary and things are going to change. And like, I've always thought was interesting when you watch a horror movie now versus one from the 80s. You watch a horror movie in the 80s and you realize that none of those movies could take place now, because anybody has a cell phone, the movie's over in 10 seconds. Yeah. Exactly. And those things only work in the time frame that they're there. So you see a lot of these movies nowadays, and they frustrate me because there's always going to be a moment to get rid of the phone. Oh, we don't have a signal here. Oh, I dropped my phone and it broke. Oh, my battery died. And I just kind of roll my eyes because it's contrived, but they know they have to do that in order to make the story happen. So it's always tough to try to write, in the contemporary moment and hope that it'll still have some relevance in 10 years, which is why it was another reason why it was interesting looking back on that story from 30 years ago, as to how much of it still really held up, to nowadays, as far as at least in the essence of the story.
Nice.
All right. Yes. Got it. All right.
Let
me ask you this, man. Being a writer now, you've written books now, and obviously the comedy bits. What's the more gratifying feeling? What's the better hit? Like when you get that set or that bit down and it's fucking nailed, or writing a story out of your lane, out of the comedy lane, a book, a story, a long thing. What gives you the better? You know what I mean? The better Jones now.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and this is that is like a battle of two different things, because comedy gives you that immediate gratification, that immediate sense. Like I can write a joke today, do it tomorrow, and if it crushes, I get that instant high. But with a book, it might be a year and a half until from the time I started to the time I finish it. And that sense of accomplishment when it's finally finished and I'm happy with it, that is of a much higher level of satisfaction than the joke thing is. But the joke writing is more immediate. So it's faster, it's quicker, it's right there. But the book, man, I can't, like, the first time my very first book, when I held it in my hand for the first time, like I probably stood there and stared at it for 10 minutes, just in complete awe of myself, because I did it. I finally wrote this book after how many years, decades of wanting to be an author and never having done it, never thinking I could. Because I tried writing books, throughout my life and gave up on them. I just gave up on them. I'd start and then wouldn't know where to go. And then there are other points. And I think this might be something that other people get, is that when you start to write a story and then you see a movie or a TV show or read a book, and some of what you were writing about is in that movie or TV show or book, and then like you just abandon your whole project and you're like, I can't come up with the original thought. I can't come up with anything unique. But then eventually, at least with me, I realized that there's only so many plots out there. There's only so many, basic things out there. It's your take on it. It's your version of it. It's your perspective and your characters that make the story worth reading. So don't worry about what other people are doing, unless it's something like very super specific, like I don't know, if you're supposed to kill somebody with an ice pick made out of ice, actual ice or something like that. Well, if somebody writes a book and that's the main plot point, maybe you need to change that. But aside from something so specific as that, if it's a book about, like this one here, I'm sure this is not the first book anybody's ever written about a high school principal that loses his shit. I'm sure there's not, but I hope that there aren't any other books out there about a high school principal who loses his shit in the same way that mine does, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah. The interesting part of this is I like the way you have set Winston up. And, in a way, I felt similar to what he was going through several years ago when my ex left. Quite in effect the same way that you had yours. I woke up one morning and got up, looked out the front window and saw a fucking moving van outside. And I was like, oh, is there anything you want to tell me? And yeah, that was how that started. So watching Winston watch his wife pack her bag in front of him and like go through her underwear so specifically and pack some stuff and then go out and get in some stranger's car was pretty cathartic. But I like the way you're setting his character up.
It's fucking damaging.
Yeah. And that's, I felt like that initial couple chapters were so important to establishing a connection with the reader. And I think that for me, like I felt that, like I haven't had that specific thing happen, but I've had similar things happen. And I think most people have some story like that they can really relate to. And then it makes it easier to get inside the mindset of a person when you realize that everything you thought, was going okay in your life isn't anymore. And everything changed on a dime. And you just don't know if you can take it anymore. Yeah. And thank you for that, because that's I tried to make it as I don't want to say as realistic as possible, but as emotional as possible. And I wanted to make it be a scene that people can read and go, ah, shit, like I remember this. I know. Yeah. Like I wanted to create that sense of dread right out of the gate, and want people to be compelled enough to keep flipping pages and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a great intro to his character, and it really makes anyone that's been through something like that, I would think anyway, just instantly attach themselves to that person. So, kudos for that, because it was a very realistic beginning.
Thank you, man.
Ziggy, you got something else?
I do. Let me go over here. There. Okay. We'll explore the comedian side here for a little bit. All comedians have experienced, they've been heckled, and the heckling goes back and forth. I mean, are you the type that, will you disarm a heckler like there? And then 2 questions. What is the best zinger you've ever laid on a heckler? And then has a heckler ever got one over on you? Not that you would admit it live or anything like that, but where you're like, fuck, that was a good one.
Those are good questions. So yeah, I'm the type of person, so this is going to sound crazy, but my style of comedy is pretty energetic and pretty aggressive. So I don't get a lot of hecklers. And when I do, I tend to shut them down pretty quickly. And I try to do it in a manner that's nice enough, friendly enough, but in a manner that makes them know I probably don't want to keep going with this, And like I do it in a way, and I wish I could think of a good example, but like if I'm going to get a heckler, it's usually going to be a woman, and it's usually going to be because I'm a comedian. I'm a male comedian, and who I am on stage isn't exactly who I am off stage, but my character on stage is, let's say, a little bit of misogynist. Let's just say that, right? Let's just say it's
Bill Burr light.
Bill Burr light. Great example, right? That's a great example. And so it tends to occasionally rile up the more feminist person in the crowd. So I'll have a girl that will take offense to something I've said and want to defend it. And then I'll tend to, playfully, nicely, put her, back in her place, I guess, if that's the right way to say it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to somebody getting one over on me, it happens all the time. And what I'll do, to me, is I'll give them their moment. If they have something really good and it's a good zinger, I'll take it and I'll give them, I'll give them the props for it. And I'll say that was good. You're and then we're going to move on. Exactly. But if they keep doing it and they want the show to be about them, I'm going to flip it around pretty quickly and go, now you realize I let you have that moment. It's not you. You're not better than me at this. And that's the thing. And that's not an egotistical thing to say. I've been doing comedy for 32 years and I've played in some of the most aggressive places on earth. I can handle myself in that kind of a situation. You came to maybe the first or second comedy show of your life. You're probably not going to win,
You're literally paid to be funny and fast. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's the same thing. Like if, pick any profession in the world, you can pick, if somebody's a doctor and somebody's like a world-class surgeon, you're not going to push that guy aside, because you stitched your finger once up in high school. You're probably not, you might be able to stop the bleeding, but you're not going to do as good a job as the other person is.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. One of the early books that you wrote, if I remember correctly, was How to Fail at Stand-Up Comedy. Is that correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay. And that other comedians that even we know, I believe, have written little stand-up comedy, not tutorials, but guides, if you will. What makes yours different than some of the others that may be out there?
Yeah. So I wrote this book with a purpose in mind. And the purpose in mind was I try to figure out, after 30 some years in comedy, why am I not farther along than I wanted to be? And I had to really take a step back and look at my life and look at the choices I've made and figure out what I've done wrong. And, again, when you have COVID and stuff like that, it's easy to do. And I was able to see some very severe pathways that I could have gone a different route with. So then I started contacting. I thought, you know what? There's a lot of things that I do wrong. Like, let's say, here's an example. I was asked to teach a comedy class once, and they wanted me to teach the basics. Take the microphone out of the stand and talk into the mic and don't ignore. Those kind of basic stuff. I didn't want to teach that. I wanted to teach the stuff that made a lot more sense, a lot more important to somebody who wants to be a comedian. Like, hey, maybe don't get shit-faced drunk on stage every night. Maybe don't sleep with the wait staff. Because that's going to end up biting you in the ass. And I realized that nobody tells you that kind of stuff. Nobody tells you the kind of things. Like here's another good point. When I first wanted to go out and become a stand-up comedian, I asked a comic. I said, "How do you know when you're ready to go on the road?" And he said to me, "When you're ready, you'll know." And I said, "That's the shittiest thing somebody can say. That's nothing. That's not advice. How does that help me at all?" And then 30 some years into it, I 100% understand what he means, right? But you wouldn't understand it back then. So I decided I wanted to write a guide, not so much a guide per se, but a book that just explained the things that you may not understand now, but you're going to get 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you're going to be glad that you had this information. So I contacted all the club owners I could think of, some big name comedians, some managers, some agents, and I said, what's one thing that a comedian could do that would make you never want to work with that person again? Because that's what was important to me, was finding this, not the stuff that you're doing right, but the stuff that you're doing wrong. And all the other books will tell you, this is how you write a joke. This is how you should do this. This is how you should do that. But nobody tells you, don't do these things, because these things will fuck up your career. And they will, there's so many different things. So I wanted to make certain points, and then use stories from my own life to illustrate what I did and why it was the wrong decision. And then I think a lot of comics would look at that and go, oh shit, I do that too. I've done that. I've been there. I've been that guy. And you don't want to be that person. Like even something as simple as when you're doing a showcase at a club that you really want to get work at, how do you approach that? How do you behave once you walk in that door, and what do you say? What do you do in there to leave an impression without, becoming too pushy, without, leaving a bad taste in their mouth, those type of things. And, to me, it's a great book because it can help you at any stage in the game, because I talk about everything from sending your avails to a club to how to set up a one-nighter to, anything that is important. Like I don't go into a lot of explicit detail in every little thing, but I'll tell you how to do merch, how to order merch, how to, what to charge for your merch, how to sell the merch, and that's just one very tiny aspect, but that's all the things that people do that they do wrong. Like another great example is, this happens to me all the time because I do book a couple rooms myself that I book comedians in. And one of the things that I put in this book very specifically is when somebody asks if you can do a gig, I very specifically say, your answer is yes or no. And too many times, probably every time I put out something and I say, I need a comedian for this date. It pays this much money. It's at this location. Are you interested? They'll go, oh, well, how much time do you need me to do? And, does it have to be clean? And can I bring a friend? And can you get me a hotel and all these type of things? If you've got to ask all these different, I don't have time to waste on that, then that answer is no. Because if you can only do the gig conditionally, then I don't want to hire you. I don't want to hire somebody that's a pain in the ass. But if you send me a message and you say, yes, I'm absolutely interested, I can absolutely do this gig, and if I can get a hotel, that would be great. Or if a cheap hotel in the area, I would love that information, or whatever it is you want to give me, but tell me yes or no. That's all I need to know at this point in time. And that's what's holding a lot of comics back, is when they go, I'm interested, give me more information. Well, I sent this message out to 500 people. I don't have time to sit back and respond to everybody about why do you care? Do you want to do the gig? Do you not want to do the gig? Why do you care? Well, this building was founded in 1832. It seats exactly 78 people, and there's a bar in the back end. The bathrooms have 2 stalls. Who gives a shit? Do you want the gig or do you not want the gig? It's just like, don't give me the shit. Who cares, right? It's these type of things, basically, about how do you become the most bookable comedian you can become. Right. And that's what the book's about.
Now I'm starting to remember why you and Rob got together so well, because he is almost exactly the same way. I remember him talking about his list that he would send out, and he'd be like, hey, it says I need a feature for this date. You're doing this much time. This is what you get paid. This is the little perks that you get on top of it. There's nothing. Here's the date and the address of the location. Nothing else you need to know, yes or no. And yeah, he would get the same email. And when we were working together, I would hear him in the other room just, motherfucker, just bitching and moaning. I'm like, oh, another email? Same thing.
Oh, yeah. I had here's a good example of something. I booked a comedian, and I'm not going to give this person's name, but I booked a comedian for a show. And 2 weeks before the show happened, they sent me a message and said they got offered another gig on the same date. But they want to honor mine, so if I can double the money, they'll still do my gig. And exactly, in my head, I went, so what you're saying is, take me off your list. I'm never going to work for you, because you're not going to, really, you're going to extort me at the last minute. I'm not going to play that game. There's no way. There's no way.
Wow. Yeah. We dealt with a little bit of that too. So.
Yeah.
I'm sure
it's a pain.
Everyone does.
It's a pain, man. The business side to comedy is the hardest and most frustrating part. And people that are on the outside of the business think it's just all, laughing and getting drunk and all this kind of stuff. And that's the least of it. Show business is 2/3 business, 1/3 show. And what people don't understand, like I have people all the time that'll message me. Let's say today, I get somebody sent me a text message and they said, "Oh, so what are you doing?" I'm like, "What am I doing? I'm working." What do you mean? What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know. Updating my calendar, updating my website. I'm sending out messages, looking for more gigs. I'm making a flyer. I'm doing a routing for something else. I'm setting up a hotel room. I'm doing 1,000 things that have to be done to be a comedian. That's my day. There's not enough hours in a day to do this stuff. Comedy is that 1 hour I'm on stage a night is the smallest part of comedy, the smallest part. And if that's the biggest part, you're doing something wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Man, I'm just saying I can totally relate to this. Just being a musician and in touring bands and stuff like that, it's the same goddamn thing. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and people just don't understand it because people have their 9 to 5 or their 8 to 4 or whatever they have. They clock in, they clock out, they do what they do, and they put it aside. They're done when they're done. But for a comedian, that isn't the case. Like when I get off the phone here, I have to go find a memory card for my computer, not my computer, for my video camera because I need to get a new tape, this weekend. I have 6 shows going, so I'm gonna have to record this thing, and I need a new memory card to do that. So I got to go out and I got to go find that. I've got the pack still. I got to pack my merchandise for this weekend. I got to pack enough merchandise to get through 6 shows, which is, that's a lot. I don't have a bag big enough for that. So I'm going to have a bag and a backup bag. I'm going to have to pack my actual clothes when I'm doing that. Then I've also just realized something else I haven't done, but I have my niece's birthday party is on Saturday. I should probably pick her up a gift, I guess, before I go to my niece's birthday party on Saturday, which I'm going to do, at some point in time between gigs. I got to get my clothes. I'm probably going to have to wash the clothes, that I want to pack. So I've got a ton of stuff I still got to do before I leave for my gigs tomorrow. And that's just every day. That's every day.
Yeah. Speaking of merchandise, Ziggy discovered one of your shirts, and I don't know if you still use this or not. I assume you probably still do, but the 65% fuckable it was the one, and he spotted that and sent it over to me, and it was like, "Did you see this?"
Well,
yeah,
not just that, the cock blocker too, man. And I'm sure you have bits behind both of these, but I mean, they have to sell well.
Yeah, so it's funny. The wingman and the cock block were the T-shirts I was selling for the longest time, and I was selling those shirts for probably 15 years. And then one day I just said, I don't feel like doing that bit anymore on stage. Like every bit in my act had changed except for that bit for like 15 years, and I was only doing that bit because it sold the T-shirts. And I said to myself, I just can't do it. I don't have it in me. And it was just it was just one day. I still probably have 200 of each of those T-shirts sitting around my apartment because I just couldn't do the bit anymore. And they're still available on my website. I just don't do that bit anymore. Now, as far as the fuckable one goes, luckily for me, I can do that bit because that particular bit is like 30 seconds long, and I don't feel like I'm selling my soul to do it. So I have them, and people like it. And the best part about that shirt to me, and that's something else I talk about in Fail, is that shirt is funny without seeing the bit. Like you can look at that T-shirt and it'll make you laugh. And that to me is the biggest key to merchandise, is having merchandise that translates off the stage. That makes it vastly more valuable when people want to buy something just because it in and of itself is funny. Like I had that my fuckable shirt. I've sold that shirt at clubs to people that weren't at the show. They just walked in, saw it, and went, "I got to have that shirt. I got to have that. That's great." And to me, that's a sign that it's a pretty good shirt. But it's the funny part about it is it could mean so many different things to so many different people, and that's what I like about it. Like in your head, you're going, 65% is not a very high number. Like in school, that would be a D, right? But it's better than half, right?
Not the D,
but right, not the D, but it's better than half. So if you're more fuckable than 50% of people out there, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good.
I'd
so
take it.
I'd take it. Absolutely. If I could walk into a bar and every other person wants to fuck me, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me there's no context at all on this shirt? It just says 65% fuckable. Your name's not on it anywhere. Nothing except that.
The website is in small print underneath the words.
Okay.
Just in case people want to buy another one,
Yes.
Yeah. I've still got the designated wingman one. I know. I think someone stole my 65% fuckable T-shirt years ago. I blame Rob, actually. No, just kidding. He's 35% fuckable, so you don't have that shirt available, do you?
What's that?
You don't have that shirt available, do you? 35%?
The wingmans?
No, 35%.
No. I've had people say, "Well, I'm 100% fuckable. You should sell that one," or it should be 69% fuckable. I'm like, well, those are completely different jokes, and not the point that I'm getting with this one. 35. I've thought about for the longest time of going maybe a shirt that said 35% batshit crazy or something like that. So a couple could walk down the street, one with each shirt on, have it be a couple one. But I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet.
There you go.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Well, what is? Oh, go ahead.
I say I got one more, then I'll be done. Until the blood begins to flow. Would you have any psychosis or madness to foray into the filmmaking with this at all, or would you be more content in selling the script off and maybe having it develop that way, just to maybe see it materialize someday?
I would love to see any one of my books in film, right? I think I would love to do that. I don't think I have the skill set to pull it off on my own, you know? If I was going to try to make one of my books into a movie, it would be the My Dark Itch one. I feel like that one is that's something I could do low budget and make it work. I could absolutely start it. So I think that's one that would translate easier. But like this book as an example, it's a lot. There's a lot going on in this book, and it would be in my very first book, Jester's Run. There's a ton going on in that book as well. So I don't know that I would have the skills as a filmmaker. Like I've never made a film, outside of just basic little videos of this or of that, But man, it'd be amazing to see any of these things. Now, like I know, like Stephen King for a while made a lot of movies that were subpar, and he wasn't happy with that process. Mm-hmm. But just the idea of something I've written making its way to the screen and it's having the words, based on a story by Steve Sabo, that would be amazing, absolutely amazing.
All right. Well, yeah, we did have earlier in the show, I don't know if he's still watching, but director, writer, producer Adam Marcus was stuck his head in for a minute. I don't know if he's still watching, but
well, see, I kind of called him out on the Jason is a Deadite thing, and I said on that post, like, we will settle this on the DCS airwaves once Adam Marcus shows up to add to the madness of this conversation.
I didn't see that.
It will happen.
Jason is a Deadite. Wow, that's wow.
Oh, you haven't followed some of that?
I haven't. No.
You're welcome to join to be on the panel when we do this. Because there's a lot of people that stand on one side and some stand on the other.
Yeah.
Where it's absolutely not, and then some say it's right there. Right there. Necronomicon's right there.
Like I can see the argument. Yeah, I can definitely see that. That's a tough one. I was just thinking, like, I heard something about, you guys probably are way up on this more than I am now, but I guess they're doing another Evil Dead, but without Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
Like I can't even like, that bothers me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that's possible, because that whole thing is Bruce Campbell. Like that's what makes it amazing. Yeah. So I don't.
Well, they've already done back in, what was it, 2013 with the last Evil Dead incantation. Right. They did it in the cabin, at least out in the woods. This one is in a San Francisco high-rise apartment building. So they're really taking it out of the water. But Campbell himself says it absolutely ties to their universe. I don't know how yet. I have to see it, but it's getting rave reviews.
He said the movies now are more about the book itself. So that's what he said in the panel anyway when we were up there. So
yeah, I mean, to me, like, I watched the TV series and it was just great just having him back in that role, you know, and I love that. Like I haven't seen the new Hellraiser where the Hellraiser is a girl, but I heard that wasn't good. So
it's actually pretty cool because each puzzle box unlocks. It's much more explained and it's very cool and much truer to Barker's original writing. So
but
check that out.
If you're a hardcore fan of the original movies,
if you love Doug Bradley, it's going to hurt a little bit. But she's good. She's good as the Pinhead. And Pinhead in those original books was a sexless being. So, yeah.
I have to admit, I Doug Bradley scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. You know, I was like, oh my God. To me, I want to say it was it Hellraiser 2 where the guy gets completely flayed alive and whatever one. I was like, oh, I think I had nightmares of that forever. You know, the idea of just the entire. I have a one of the boxes in my apartment right now. It's not a working box. I wouldn't. I don't have. I don't have enough guts to do that, just in case. But you know, I've always been a huge fan of those movies and stuff. So, and it's interesting because now that we bring it back up, you talked about. Not necessarily Evil Dead, but you talked about Jason and you talked about Pinhead and stuff like that. The character, if you've gotten that far in Blood,
he's a fan.
Yeah, huge fan. He's a huge fan of slasher movies and those type of things. So that was fun bringing that aspect into it as well. And that was missing from the first draft of the book. And once I added that whole aspect into it, it changed the whole story. And to me, is what made it so much better because anybody who's a fan, this is in my head, but anybody who's a fan of horror films will like this book because, you know, it has little details, little things in there that that horror fans will love, you know, like I don't know if you've ever read My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, I believe his name is. He's got it. It's a book he wrote, and it has a lot of that kind of stuff too. The little things. It's hard to even explain it, but they're little things that that you appreciate if you saw those films, where you go, oh, I remember that. Oh, that's great. I love that. You know, that type of thing. And I love those little Easter eggs in stories and movies and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Now, the stuff you added to your story, is this your own experience, your own fandom imprinted into it, or did you just kind of do some deep research before writing?
It was, I would say it was 99% fandom and then 1% research to verify that I was remembering things right. You know,
I love it.
You know, I want to make sure I got it right. But I've some of those movies, like I've in my comedy years ago, I used to do this bit where I explained the plot of all of the Friday the 13th movies in 30 seconds. I just did like this speed talking thing where I explained from 1, you know, all the way up to 10, Jason in Space. And then I talked about the sequels. And so I just went through the whole thing. And so I've been a fan from the beginning. I mean, I was a horror fan first before anything else in this world. Very first thing in me. So that's why it's funny, because comedy is my occupation and what I've been doing for all my life. But through and through, in my heart of hearts, you know, I'm a horror buff. That's who I am.
Well, that brings me to something new, because I didn't even think about this as a question. Have you thought about taking your books to a horror convention and sitting in there for a weekend? I mean, we just got back from Cincinnati not too long ago. I forgot you were in Ohio. But yeah, I spent pretty much an entire week in Ohio, and you know, but there's several around that you could hit in your area and maybe schlep off a few books.
It's funny that you say that. I never thought about that until you just brought it up. But I might have to do that because that would be fun because it'd be fun to go there anyway and to have a little booth there or a little spot there and do that. That would be great. I guess never really thought about that. I've always I don't know enough about anything. I'm new as an author. I'm only a couple years in. I'm not even sure how to get book signings and book readings and stuff like that going on. And I've contacted a couple independent bookstores and they didn't seem to be overly interested in doing it. So it's tough trying to figure it out. But my main occupation, like I said, is being a stand-up comedian, being on the road. I thought it'd be easy to maybe I go to the city that I'm in and contact a book, during the day I could do a book signing and at night I could do a show. Thought they'd coordinate each other. So far I haven't been able to make that happen, but the horror convention thing, that's a great idea. That'd be fun.
I think you would be good because you could actually chew the fat with the fans on the horror stuff. You're not like a poser in there. You actually know your shit. So, I mean, that you would fit right in there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they always have evening entertainment. And a lot of times it's these shitty bands that aren't worth a fuck. No offense to some of them, but really. But we've seen, there have been some that had comedians there, but I don't think they were, I think they were just locals, like more open micers. But yeah, if you could get a hold of some convention and say, look, not only do I want, I want a table, but is there any chance maybe we can work out my table rent for, give me a slot, an hour slot in the after party?
Yeah. And that's a great idea. That's a really great idea. If you have any contacts, let me know. I would absolutely be interested in contacting them, see what I could hook up. That'd be fun. That'd be great.
Talk to your girl in Detroit.
We got a few, definitely Motor City Nightmare.
Yeah.
We know them pretty well, so definitely. Well, I'll pass along everything I've got.
Sounds great. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. What's next for you? Are you working on a new book, or are you working on a second draft of a new book and editing the first draft of another book? What's coming up later?
Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff is going on here. So I have I'm in the very first opening stages of a new book that's it's another thriller. It's involving some of the characters that were in my first and third book. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be more of a maybe a horror thriller, I guess. So it's not completely going away from the thriller, but it's going to be more of an action-based horror, I guess, type book. It's very beginning stages of that. I'm also working on, I haven't started this yet, but I'm working on getting my books on Audible. So, because a lot of people keep asking me, do you have an audio version? Do you have an audio version? Do you have any audio version? I listen to stuff. I don't actually sit down to read. So I figure I'm going to start with the How to Fail one and do that one first, and then I guess pick and choose from there if I can make it work. And so there's a lot of stuff going on as far as that goes. But this one like literally just came out, like it was supposed to be officially out on April 1st. It came out a week early, and so. I got to promote the shit out of this one, and I'm very glad you guys are able to help me do that. I think this is the perfect place for it. This is the people that watch your podcast are the people that should be reading my book. Those are the people I want to be reading my book, and not like for example, my mom read my last book, My Dark Itch, the killer comedian one, and let's just say, not well received. Right? She will not be reading this one, guaranteed. She's the one that would be reading a Daniel Steele novel and not a Steve Sabo novel. So I want to get in touch with the people that should be reading my book. And
did she at any point say, what's wrong with you?
This is what she wrote to me. Literally, she sent me a text and she said, your book made me physically ill. Never do that again.
Steve's mom.
Right. I love using that question, especially to open an interview with a filmmaker or something after we've seen their movie and we know where their headspace was when they were creating this or something like that. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So that's a great opener.
Yeah. Comedy is the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like to me, I've always loved, really dark comics, really dark. Like if you listen to Anthony Jeselnik, his jokes are brutal. And that's the stuff that really makes me laugh. And to some people, that's going to be a real turnoff. Like, I can't believe he talked about this. I can't believe but to me, that's what you should be laughing at. The really fucked up dark shit that isn't real, that's great. So, I think, horror books and stuff like that are the same way. This isn't, it's an escape from reality into a dark fantasy, so you can get out that kind of whatever it is you have inside you that you need, that fuels that, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Right. Well, like you were just describing, I think you described CJ. She said, "That's me, the librarian who needs to read your novel." That's right. So
awesome.
In fact, there's the link again, everybody. So head on over to Amazon. You can pick that up. It's $15 right now.
A steal.
Yeah, absolutely. Until the blood begins to flow.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think Ziggy, you got anything else? Or is that it?
I'm pretty good. I think you stop and see him when he stops in your town. If he's coming to bring the comedy, go see him. Yeah. Support the arts, please.
Yep. Steve, what is your website and social media and all that stuff? Where can people follow you?
Yeah. SteveSabo.com, SteveSabo.com. And my Instagram, my YouTube, my Facebook, all of that is at S Sabo Comic. So S Sabo Comic, that's S as in Steve, S Sabo Comic, on all of those things. And SteveSabo.com is my website.
Excellent. Well, I got one more thing for you. And I hope this doesn't scare you like it used to.
We have such sights to show you.
Hi, this is Doc Bradley, Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, and you're watching Death Curse Society. You better keep watching, or I will tear your soul apart.
Well, that's a long tag on that.
That is a long tag. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there for you, just because you mentioned him.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
That is like I was mentioning with the conventions. One of the things that is great, you get a chance to just talk to these guys, and they're they're regular people, but it's still a fix and it's such a trip whenever you've spent so many years watching the movies.
There's a couple of times we fanned out. We couldn't help it.
Oh, yeah.
How could you not? That's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, Steve, man, it's good to catch up with you a little bit. Like I said, it's been about 10 years or so. Glad you're doing well. And you found an outlet during the pandemic, which is rare.
I did. Yep.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, man. And is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we let you start packing and maybe go shopping for your niece?
Yeah, I got to send a message to my sister and find out what I need to get her. Yeah. You know what? Thank you so much for supporting me. If you read my book, please, and please read the book. But if you read the book, please send me, tell me what you think. Send me a review on Amazon. Even if you hated it, I want to know. I want to know. I want to get some feedback on it. It'll only make me better. And keep supporting stand-up comedy. Keep supporting books and reading and horror specifically. And if you see me on the road, do not be afraid to say hello. I'd love to talk to you.
That's right.
Don't heckle him.
Don't heckle him. Because, he...
Demise, I guess. I'll tear your soul apart.
There you go. And don't forget, he is 65% fuckable, so keep that in mind as well.
That's right. That's right, ladies. Yes, ladies.
I don't know.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
You got to be open these days with all these things.
All right, you never know nowadays.
No, you do not. Man,
thanks,
Steve, again,
thanks,
thanks for coming in, and have a great weekend. Hope you knock them dead wherever you're going, Ohio somewhere. And thanks for coming in, man. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right. That's
Wow.
Steve Sabo, ladies and gentlemen, and you can pick up his book right now at Amazon. The link is in the comments. Let me get that image off there. There we go. Yeah, I've already got it. I'm 50 pages in. Oop, let me uncover it.
I will
there.
get. I got to get past Easter and everything, man. There's just too much. Even I can't even pick up the phone and dial it. You know what I mean? I gotta actually get some funds back in the bank. That's how bad shit's been going over here. But I'm gonna get it because I
You
mean,
just wrecked.
well, I didn't wreck. It wasn't me. I was just
no.
I was there. I was in. It just sucked. I guess I'm indirectly responsible because I wanted the pizza. So I don't know. When tempers were flaring a bit, that was brought up a couple times, and I was like, man, what the fuck? I can't have a fucking lunch. We don't take a lunch ever, and I can't take a lunch. So yeah. Anyway, but it's fine. It's all good. But
It's all your fault.
I will have the book, is what I'm getting at. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not going to support somebody and then Crank bought it, but I want to buy it too because I love reading these things, man. And anything horror like this, and if we're supporting our field and what we're doing, it's a fucking bonus, man. And I'm in. I want to know it. I want to read it. I want blood, and I want it to flow right now.
Right. I I think it was almost kismet that, or karma, however you want to put it, that this interview came together because, I was still in Cleveland, I think, when I first saw him
Post that.
talking about, hey, here's my new book that's out now. And I was like, dude, is this a horror book? Just by the title, it looks like it.
Saw that.
And he responded back when I was driving back to St. Louis, I think. So,
It surely is.
yeah. So, yeah,
That's
that was
cool.
when
I mean,
I started talking to you guys while I was driving through my talk to text thing on my phone and everything, and was trying to get that. CJ says, given the setting of the book, I imagine I'd have a lot to say about it. Yeah, working in the school. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting. I mean, I think of the class of '84, and this sounds a little more sinister than that, which is cool. And he's promised twists you won't see coming. So I mean, that's fucking good looking out. I like it.
I got to get to page 200, so
Page 200, folks.
I may be busy. Luckily, I finished some editing today, so
Yes, we got something coming at you. What are you looking at me for?
Mm-hmm.
I had to restart. Remember?
I know, because we both were working on the same damn thing.
Same goddamn.
God damn it!
But it's okay because you're gonna get the aforementioned Bruce Campbell. I don't know. It's almost like a stand-up, really.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
He just kind of does a Q&A, but he's Bruce Campbell in his absolute essence, and it's funny. He's very rude to people in a very loving way, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm going to try to go through and cut some of those clips out too.
And then once I get through and make that TikTok thing with because I'll tell you what, when I sat down, I started working on that piece, and he's walking back and forth the whole time he's talking there when he's saying that shit. So I wasn't having it.
And the angle where he's looking straight at the camera has an arm right up in the middle of it, if I remember correctly.
There are times I wish we were the only ones in the fucking panel room. Like when I got all set up at the Terrifier panel, which is the second one you're going to get, Terrifier 2.
Here comes the head.
I sat down, and I was like, God damn it, I got good fucking, this place is jammed up. I got a great spot, and there's just another lady there. We were both kind of jockeying. I gave her the aisle seat, which maybe I should.
Never do.
Oh, I was just, it's the good guy like that, man. I set my camera up, and then here comes fucking Too Tall Jones. Fucking dude, the guy was fucking 7 feet tall sitting down. I mean, and he right in front of my fucking camera. However, I did get a killer angle, and I just left it a static shot of Damian Leone and David Howard Thornton. That's my shot. The close-ups, that's me. So everybody else shot all the other members.
Yeah, I think
panel.
you were going that way, and then FaZe was on the other side of the room, covering that side, and then I was back here with the full shot. So,
and only occasionally you see the head just kind of roll in, like the back of the shaved head just kind of.
Should be able to crop around that.
And I did. I kind of lifted it, and I zoomed way in, and I got ahead of him, but it was still, I couldn't shoot anybody else. The other three, none of them.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. This is really a conversation that we should have, like, not really on the air.
Some of the people love the behind the scenes stuff. This is the shop talk, you know.
This is the shit that we have to do, like he's talking about, you know, hotel rooms and routing and flights and blah blah blah. This is the shit that we have to talk about.
Yes.
Which we obviously didn't very well because we were both working on the same fucking panel last week.
It was like, you got it, I'll take it, I got it, you do it, and then I started working. So.
Yeah.
It's all right, though. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're getting the Bruce Campbell. Actually, members are getting the Bruce Campbell panel first.
It's already, for the members, it's there.
They got it. If you're a member, you can watch it now.
Yeah, you can watch it now because, we're pretty much done here. So.
Terrifier, I'm going to push hard to get it done tonight and tomorrow. If I can't with Easter, the weekend coming, it may be Monday, Tuesday before I get it up there for the members, and then a week later for everybody else.
Right. Have you caught up on Slasher yet? Because it debuts tomorrow.
I know, I haven't had time. Not any time at all to watch that yet, but it's right there. You know, I was going, okay, I just got to you know what I mean? I just got to catch a flu or something and I could probably knock out 2 seasons worth right there. We'll see.
All right. What else you got tonight? Anything?
Tonight, it's just, it's going to, you know, I'm going to try to edit up on Terrifier 2 panel from Horror Hound. And I got to kind of call it an early night, Max. we got to truckloads of Easter plants to be delivering all over the great state of Michigan tomorrow. And so if you're out there, have a heart and stay the fuck out of our way because we can't bust this truck. If this one goes down, we're fucked.
And pick up the limbs on the road because those are dangerous.
It wasn't even a branch, dude. It was like the tree. You know, the trunk went up and then it went out over the road, but it was still, you know, 9-inch fucking trunk.
Nice.
What the fuck?
That's scary.
Then the city comes in and goes, "You're not supposed to be down this road in this kind of truck." And he's just like, "I was just turning around, man." He's like, "What about the motherfucker coming down right at me down the one way and, you know, made me move over and made me get in line?" It sucked. Today sucked. This was actually very therapeutic, and I'm thankful that we got to talk to Steve tonight. You know, 'cause I was looking like I wasn't even going to make it.
Yeah.
And actually,
now I got to go get his other book.
Yeah. All 5 of them.
Yeah. Well, the Scratch the Itch or the Confessions of a
My Dark
Comedian
Itch. Confessions of a Killer Comedian.
Yeah, that one I need to get. Because
I'm serious, man. He could be he could be the star of it because he already knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty good. That's something else we got to discuss later. I'm going to file that one into...
You haven't read it yet. It may suck.
I love the concept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it though for me. What are you doing?
Gonna head to work here shortly. It's time for some people to start squawking at karaoke here in Stillwater. So, I'm not sure.
Can you put on Barbie Girl?
You know, I dread that fucking movie's coming out because I know I'm gonna start hearing that song again. It's been gone for a few years, besides the rare occurrence that it comes up. But it's been gone for a few years, and now that fucking movie, it's gonna be in there, and it's gonna come back with a fucking vengeance, and I'm gonna be so pissed off.
Yeah.
I blame what's her name, Margot or whatever.
Margot.
No, what's the girl's name in Barbie?
Oh, I don't know. It's funny though. I've seen all those other memes around. They're putting like Michael Myers in there in one of those because they got all the little mini posters.
Right.
Oh, there you go, Josh. I will give you my review of the Mario movie late tonight.
Ah, okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I that's a movie I don't give a shit about.
Wait with bated breath.
But no, I am curious to see what he would think because he is a gamer guy, you know. So he's got a different view of it.
I mean, I was there for like that first Mario, Super Mario Brothers. Actually, Mario Brothers, the original game, had nothing to do with that. It was more of a straight up like Donkey Kong kind of game. You just had.
I was there for Donkey Kong, but
yes, and he was Jumpman even back then. He wasn't even fucking Mario.
Right.
But once I got, I grew out of it. I was like Super Mario 2 and maybe a little bit of Super Mario 3, and I was like, whatever, this is stupid. Give me some hockey and football. That's what I wanted to play. So Mario, yeah, it's cool. I missed out on the entire Mario Kart craze and Mario World and all that stuff. I did none of it.
Never played any of that. Nope.
So that's what it looks like to me. That's why I don't need to see this.
Right.
If it was all da 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 da. Right.
That was it. All right. Yep, we've got to get, but man, thanks for watching. The few of you that were here tonight. I know it's not a regular schedule, but this was something we could not schedule on a Monday, so we had to work around it.
Recording sucks too. I mean, we could have taped it, but fuck, there's no interaction with that, and that's no fun.
Right. Well, we didn't have that much interaction tonight anyway, but
we did,
but we had a little bit.
You had spontaneous zag and crank, so
that's right.
That's us shooting from the hip without much prep. I wrote down a couple of questions here, and
God, you don't even have a full piece of paper there.
No, I had an envelope, and that's. But I'm saying the guys' answers were good enough to inspire me, and what you were saying inspired me to think of other shit that I thought was good. So I don't know. No. We'll see. I have to watch this one back and see if it totally sucked.
Right. Besides the echo.
And that was the thing. We were battling. He had a computer problem right out the gate, so we had to go to his cell phone. He didn't have earphones or earbuds, so we had to mute him whenever Crank or myself had to speak, which is why you heard a little echo there. It could have been much, much worse.
Oh, yeah. And I think on other shows it would have been.
Yes.
But yeah. Anyway, we made do with it as best we could. But
we did. James, later, man. Good to see you too, buddy. We'll miss you at OKC this year.
Yeah.
I'll miss him.
That one.
I'll miss him.
I'll miss James.
Yeah.
But I ain't going to the OKC one this year.
None.
But yeah, Monday we'll be back with another edition of Monday Maniacs. We're doing our top 5 of 2013.
Wow, and I got to watch a lot of fucking movies this week.
Yes, you do.
I'm taking taking the Porta screen with me. Easter Good Friday is usually a little slow. I'm probably going to be able to knock a couple of flicks out while I'm in my car selling.
There you go.
Let's see. No, it's I don't really know. I don't know much about that one anymore. We don't. We're not affiliated with anymore. You know what I mean, bro? Wherever in Oklahoma, we'll look you up. We'll go get a steak and a beer, brother, and we'll do it that way.
We'll tell you the story then.
Right. We'll give you the dirt.
But yeah, I can't even see the lineup for OKC this year because
it's actually quite good, but whatever. It is what it is. We won't know. We won't see it. So.
But oh well, whatever.
Anyway, and then a downer, man.
I know, man. God damn, man. Bitching, dude. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back on Monday. Let's thank our members one last time. Of course, our final girls and guys: Chris, Lorena, Christy, Luke. Yeah, Chris, Lorena, Charles, Tanya, and Tyrone, and our crazy Ralph Raymond. And our camp counselors, Michigan Dave, S. Michael, Stacy Lynn, Orlando Kiara, Canadian Dave, and JJ.
Hey, Canadian Dave.
What do you got for Canadian Dave?
Hey, fuck you, buddy.
There you go. Got to make sure he feels loved,
There you go. Canadian Dave, fuck you, buddy. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great evening, and... Josh, go Sonics. Go fuck your Sonics. They don't exist anymore. Sorry, brother. Go Thunder. And we'll catch you next week, or we'll catch you on Monday.
Yeah, this week. No, it's next week. It is.
Yeah, it is next week, but Monday.
Monday.
Monday. Woo!
Yeah. Bye.
frosted glass.
Fuck you!